Welcome all of you. I'm Ines Boechat, and I'm playing lead part here for the first 5 minutes because Lynn was on a plane to Seattle this morning where she went to participate in a meeting. She wanted to be here to welcome you to one more of these faculties that are elected to our junior faculty, and also to announce the next lectures, and you have it there on your table. Announcing the next one in February about the academic process, series, steps, and switches, which will be also a very helpful tool for your academic promotion. Now, why would we have a lecture about networking or a discussion? First of all, we don't want to do a lecture. We want to have a discussion, a very interactive process with you. I'm a professor in the Department of Radiology and Pediatrics. And John?
I'm John Lowe. I'm the Associate Training Director for Department of Psychiatry and also an Associate Clinical Professor.
And we met with Lynn a few months ago trying to discuss what would be best in terms of curriculum for junior faculty and to assist you to progress within the academic setting at UCLA. I've been here for almost 30 years, and I wished I had more of this kind of assistance and lecturing, advice, mentoring. So we're trying to make it a little easier for those that are coming after us. So why would we network? Yesterday we had a meeting with a group of your colleagues, and one of them made a very accurate comment in the sense that it is okay to have a good curriculum, to have the papers, to make the presentations at meetings, but that is not only the one thing that will assure your progression within an academic career. You need to have contacts within your peers here and at other centers in order to make yourself well known, to get invited to go to meetings, to participate in meetings in national organizations and so forth. And sometimes it's pretty intimidating to get into a big room full of people and decide who am I going to approach, or it's easier to sit on the side with a glass of wine and talk to the people that you already know. So we're trying to give today here some pros for you to get to know each other a little better, but also how to do that in different environments.
And so this is our overview. So there'll be a briefing here from both of us, and then a really short networking exercise. This can be less than 30 minutes in light of today's lunch hour time. And then we'll kind of go over top 10 tips and hopefully have some time for questions and answers about how can you do a better job of networking and asserting yourself. So tell your story.
Okay. A few years ago, I was the president of the Society for Women Radiologists, which meant that I already had done some networking because I had been working on committees and had my contributions recognized and was the president of the organization, but it was a small one. And we were invited to attend a national meeting which included the presidents of all the radiology organizations. So that was a prime situation to get to know your peers in a different circumstance, know what was going on nationally, because pediatric radiology is a very subspecialty of pediatrics and radiology, so I didn't know most of the people that do. And I went with one colleague of mine who I had known for many years, and was pretty safe with her on my side. And Thursday says, well, I love you very much, but you know something? Get a glass of wine, and we're going to work this room, we're going to network for a little while. And I was, oh, you're going to abandon me here? And she says, well, just watch, come with me for a couple of meetings, and then you're on your own, and we can meet again at the end of this cocktail hour, and maybe go for dinner and so forth. So I had to go over that shyness of approaching strangers and so forth and break down the ice. That became something that I really forced myself to do over the years, so much that a friend of our family that is also a radiologist told my husband, Ines is two people. One is when she is in a social environment with just the friends, where she's really quite calm and quiet. The other one, she just goes up to a meeting, and there she is saying hello to everybody and presiding the meeting, running the meeting, and so forth. I can't quite figure that one out. And my husband started laughing. Well, that's her networking thing. So it does work. And you may have to really come out of your comfort zone, your friends, people that you know, and make an effort to connect to other people in the world.
Right. similar, I have to say, I have the same sort of story. And you would think that as a psychiatrist, I should be a natural at talking to people and feeling comfortable. But really, I'm quite shy and introverted, and I have a hard time approaching somebody, especially, you know, the chair of a department or the president of an organization, and striking up a conversation. So I really had to push myself to learn these skills. And some of them seem kind of obvious, and some of them, you know, I just sort of learned from practice, sort of learning the hard way. And so the goal today is to share some tips that we've had from our experience to see if they're applicable, hopefully for you. I'll tell you this, you know, the power of networking is that I started off volunteering for a committee to be on this workshop committee, and the chair of the group said, oh, well, I need to send out workshop acceptance and rejection letters. And I went and volunteered then to take care of that for her. So that way, you know, she's busy, obviously. And after really about a year, I got selected as the associate program chair for the organization. This year I'm the program chair. And probably, as I understand it, sort of from my networking friends, that they said, oh yeah, John, you're on the leadership track. Don't worry, you don't have to bug us anymore. So it does work. And so we're going to have a brief exercise. And for those of you watching on the webcast, I apologize in advance that, you know, it's kind of hard to network on a one-way webcast, but hopefully you'll kind of listen to the chatter and learn from the other principles we'll talk about later on in this presentation. So it won't be 30 minutes, but the network exercise today is, hopefully you're not sitting next to somebody you already know. You probably are. So if you are, I'm going to ask you to move and meet one person different. And so the goal here is then you would introduce yourself, you know, say what department you're in, and then try to find out something about that person that may not necessarily be obvious. For example, people don't know that I am a sort of a wine connoisseur, probably snob is more appropriate. And so that's something that you want to find out about the person who helps create a better connection. And the other thing I'd like to see you do is to talk about how you could potentially help somebody else. What can you offer to, in terms of like say, oh, I'm really good at personal statements, or I'm really good at designing studies, and then try to solicit from that person what their needs are and see if there's a potential match. So before we go though, just to give you, this is not a group therapy experience, but I just want a quick introduction from each one of you in the room. Just say your name, the department you're from, and what you hope to get out of this lecture, because I think it's really important to show that you're not really alone sometimes in your concerns. So I'm going to start over here.
So my name is Lourdes Guerrero. I'm in the Graduate Medical Education Office. I work for Dr. Parker and Sue Bailey on GME research and accreditation issues.
And what do you hope to get out of this?
I'm waiting for the tips.
I see. You're not here to evaluate us, right?
My name is Carol Knuckles. I'm a health services researcher and I'm an internist. I'm based here and also at the RAND Corporation. And I guess I'm hoping that you guys will motivate me because on my very full priority list, networking has been pretty low.
Good. So, over here.
Sure. I'm Aniwana Evan. I am in the Department of Pediatrics. I'm involved in pediatric palliative care and pain management, and I was hoping to come and just learn as a junior faculty member more on the academic. I mean, I like interpersonal interactions. I'm a pediatric psychologist training, but interested in learning more within the academic field. And how does networking really?
I'm Nancy Helen. I'm a pediatric cardiologist and I'm an assistant professor. I've been a faculty for a few years. And I just kind of learned how to network better, either network within the institution. I think I've done that pretty well because people are around and you see them a lot, and then by the 10th time you see them walk down the hall, then you kind of wonder who they are and look at their name tag in the elevator and start a conversation that way. But like at national meetings, it's a little more difficult, and sometimes it feels like there's a kind of a network already formed that isn't always easy for new people to enter into, and how do you break into the old networks to become part of the new people?
I'm Tim Horeshko. I'm a clinical instructor at Harper in emergency medicine. And so just, like I'm sure a lot of us just starting out and open to any advice beginning the career.
Sam French. I'm in pathology, and I do liver research and hepatitis C research. And my unreasonable expectations are to get invited to talks, to facilitate the collaborations, hopefully with some insight from you guys.
I'm James Lynn. I'm in pediatric clinical care, and I'm attending a national conference soon, and I'd like to get some tips on how to network.
I'm Cage Hall. I'm in the last year psychiatry residency. My other degree is in anthropology, and I'm in the process of starting a project on HIV prevention. I've spent much of the last several months going around and introducing myself to the people here who do HIV research and trying to figure out how better to do that.
I'm Jamie Fusner. I'm an assistant professor in psychiatry, and I'm interested in learning tips how to network with people in other institutions and increase my collaborations.
Back there behind the
I'm Peggy Sullivan. I'm from the Department of Pathology and Laboratory Medicine, one of the junior faculty here. And, again, I like going to national meetings, but I feel like I could improve my experiences there by improving my networking skills.
My name is Ronald Smith. I'm an associate professor of ophthalmology, and I'm at meetings, and sometimes I'm the moderator of sessions, and I'm taking on a new aspect toward teaching. And I'd like to be able to get the full participation of other faculty members on my panels.
My name is Una Lee. I'm a urology fellow, and I'm staying on as junior faculty, so I'm interested in increasing my collaborations in the institution.
My name is Michael Kuhn. I am assistant professor of the Department of Medicine. I do basic research in GI, and I want to know some networking skills to help me to find some collaborators.
My name is Gardenia Chalao. I've been researching in the Department of Pathology and Biochemistry for several years, and I just want to get some tips on networking and enhance my skills talking to strangers.
I'm Jennifer Long. I'm a fellow in head and neck surgery, and I always find that it's hard to get the important points across in a minute or two that you might have meeting with somebody, so I'd like some tips on that.
I'm Jordan Lake. I'm a clinical instructor in the Division of Infectious Diseases, and I do HIV clinical research, and I also would like to be better at breaking in sort of to the old boys club, if you will, at national meetings.
My name is Devika Bhattacharya. I'm also in the Division of Infectious Diseases. I also do HIV research, and I'm actually interested in getting pointers on how to be graceful about self-promotion and how to do that well.
My name is Fabiola Quintero, and I'm in the Department of Pathology. I'm an assistant professor, but I'm a medical geneticist. That's my training. So my office is also in the south part of the campus, so I don't get to interact that much with my pathology faculty fellows. And on top of that, I'm a geneticist, so I find difficulty like getting to know people here within the institution because of the points, the location, and also the training. So I'd like to get some tips.
I'm Berit Körner. I'm assistant research professor in the Department of Psychiatry, and I'm also a medical geneticist. And I feel that I'm quite good at making contacts and talking to people at national meetings and also locally, but it's often difficult for me to keep long-term connections and contact and really keep it going. Often I meet them once, and then 2 years later I meet them again, and it's often difficult to make those connections again and keep it actually alive.
And I'm Unity Cham. I'm visiting assistant professor in the Department of Neurology. I do imaging research, including with dizziness and balance disorders. I would say that my biggest fear in research and career is not being aware of my knowledge gaps. So I try to come to as many of these lectures as possible to pick up any useful tidbits.
My name is Ashley Busito. I'm an assistant professor in the Department of
Cheers up here in front.
Hi, I'm Reshma Benwali, Inspired Surgery, and I'm interested in networking in order to improve my referral-based outfit. I'm Karen Camper, Assistant Professor in PT Hematology Oncology. I'm interested in increasing the ability to do clinical research while here as faculty.
Okay. So in the interest of time, so that it's a short exercise, you got 10 minutes. So if you know somebody sitting next to you, please, I know it's kind of hard, but get up and just find somebody to talk to. Or talk to one of us if you have to. But then remember, the goal is to introduce yourself. We sort of heard some general things, so you might already have some ideas who you want to target, right?
I think Arpi and Tamara did introduce themselves.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, correct. So
Please take. Just walk in.
I'm Arpi Chalian. I just joined UCLA Health System just a few weeks ago. Assistant professor in pediatrics, but my primary responsibility is within the Electronic Health Record Initiative as the Director of Organizational Transformation, responsible for successful adoption, communication, and training strategy for the initiative.
Great. Sorry.
Tamara Horwich, I'm an assistant professor in cardiology, and just interested in this topic of graceful self-promotion.
Okay. So again, the task is introduce yourself to us you don't know, get to know each other a little bit, try to find out something about them. You know, it could be work-related or unusual. We want to test you to see how good you are at that. And then try to see if there's a way you can sort of, in that time, find out if you can be helpful to each other, whether it's on collaboration on research or making referrals or something to that extent. So we'll give you 10 minutes. And again, for those on the webcast, I apologize, but come back in 10 minutes and we'll be back with you. All right? Go at it. So everybody had the exercise was easy, wasn't it? Wasn't as hard as you imagined it to be to talk to somebody you don't know and see those ideas that sort of generated. So if you don't mind, I'm going to take one volunteer to talk about their experience and tell me what you got. So somebody volunteer, I'm going to pick somebody, which is my prerogative.
What are we doing? We're just introducing the other person?
Or just talk about your experience. You met that person.
Oh, well, we talked about our experiences in 60 seconds, and we found a lot of common ground. We're both on the junior faculty, or just about to be junior faculty. We're both on the graduating track, the health sciences track.
Okay.
We both are struggling to balance family life. We both have 2 kids, or will have 2 kids really soon. And just talking about the similarities in our department in terms of the expectations in our department, the collaborative research we'll be doing a lot of, and how to keep our jobs.
Well, thank you for sharing, and I think that's great, which is sometimes the networking isn't about, I want to get on a committee. It can be about, how do I do a better job of creating work-life balance, or something along those lines, or maybe, as you said, some collaborate on research or something like that. But remember, there's different facets of where this networking can come in handy. It could be like, oh, great, somebody I can refer to, or it could be simply, you know, I'm up for my promotion, I don't want to talk to somebody in my department, I'm kind of embarrassed or whatever, but maybe there's somebody outside of my department that I can show my personal statement to who would be willing to help me revise it or check it to make sure that it sounds like I'm not, as they say, too self-promoting. You don't want to be obnoxious when you're self-promoting, but gracefully self-promoting, so that way you're not minimizing your accomplishments. So the top 10 tips are really not in any particular order, but the first one I think is to be generative. It's very important to volunteer your time, and by the way, also not volunteering your time, but following through. So if you say you're going to do something, you better do it, because that person's going to think, next time, thanks for wanting to be on the committee, but you didn't show up half the time, or you didn't contribute anything, so they're not going to ask you again. I think helping with career guidance is really important in our series and role here in academia. I can't tell you how much I actually really enjoy talking to medical students, because the med students tell me that one of the problems, at least in psychiatry and some other specialties, is they don't get much attending time. And you might think to yourself, well, but I'm really busy, I've got to generate my RVUs, my clinical income, in order to make my salary and get my Z payment, because school loans were very expensive and I want to take care of all that. But you don't have to spend a lot of time. Sometimes it's just 10 minutes, or say, hey, let's sit down and have a cup of coffee and talk about our field or what you're interested in. And I can't tell you that, with all this mentoring that I've done in terms of medical students and residents, it actually has come back to help me in terms of some of the awards I've received for resident education, medical student teaching, and also nationally for mentoring. And so you want to be known as a resource. People in my department know that I'm passionate about education and junior faculty promotion, so they willingly come to me and say, hey John, here's my personal statement. Can you look it over and help me kind of, re-wordsmith it so that way it sounds better? Or they might say, what do you think, John, about this idea? And so if you become a resource for your department or outside or to other people, it comes back to you in many ways.
John, I wanted to add a couple of things about these tests, these tips. One of the things that was mentioned is how we are somehow isolated within the campus, within a very subspecialized area, and needing to meet people from other areas. One of the wonderful things is the participation in committees, particularly for those that have academic senate membership, participate in the academic senate committees. Because that way you get to know not only people within the medical school itself, but also on the campus overall. And this translates to very unexpected opportunities. You have to be careful not to over-commit yourself, participate in so many committees that then it becomes too time-consuming and you lose the focus on what you really need to do, which is to get yourself promoted. But it's a very good way to meet people within the university. Nowadays, there's a great emphasis in clinical productivity, and so time to participate in organizational committees is shrinking. And so if you have the time to volunteer to participate in a national organization committee, they will very gladly accept your offer because of the time constraints that most people have. So judge how much time you can spare to participate in these issues, and that will be very good. Regarding the evaluation of major steps like a personal statement, which is fundamental when someone is going for promotion, it was so recognized that this is important and that the junior faculty need guidance, that there's a council of advisors that was put together by the diversity office on the office of the chancellor. And so, particularly from the medical school, many people asked for it. So senior faculty outside of the area of the specialty of the person meet with them to review the dossier and make suggestions on how they can successfully progress. So if you contact the Office of Diversity, they will be able to assign you to a senior faculty to review that. Out of your department, out of your area, and that has people that have CAP expertise. So they will be able to give you good advice on that.
So how do you find out which committees are available to join, and how do you go about sort of...
Well, you have, what is your area of expertise? Is neurosurgery. So there's a Society of Neurosurgery. You go to the website and you look at all the subcommittees that they have there and the chair of the committee. And you may contact that person, and by email now it's easy, and also the administrator of that society, and volunteer a name saying, I'm Dr. So-and-so from UCLA, and I would like to get more involved in the activities of the organization. And frequently you will get a response back.
Sorry, could you please repeat the name of the service or committee that you were just talking about?
It's Council of Advisors from the Chancellor's Office. And Dr. Christine Littleton is the chair of that committee.
And how would we need to send an email to her?
Yeah. The Diversity Office.
That is through the Diversity Office?
Yes,
or?
not the Diversity Office of the School of Medicine,
Okay.
but the Diversity Office of the Chancellor's Office here on campus.
Ines brings up a good point, which is that networking, although nowadays we have Facebook and LinkedIn and things of that nature, but the reality is that in many of these professional organizations, it's still face-to-face. So you have to remember that you have to use both types of mediums, both your social networking or professional networking online, and sort of follow up sometimes with in-person networking. And it's funny, about 2 years ago, I was talking to the APA president saying, how come you're not on LinkedIn? And she said to me, John, why do I need that? I have a robust, personal network that I have already, I don't need to add more or put it online. I don't need to mind anything. So I thought about it. It's true. That may, she's already well established. But for somebody as junior as I am, I have to do both. I both use the professional networking online as well as at meetings, as Ines was saying. You think about who you want to meet, you find someone to introduce you, or just walk up and introduce yourself and see where that goes. One of the things we forget is that sometimes it's actually important to recognize and praise the achievements of other people. Now, you think, well, wait, isn't this about my promotion? So why do I need to praise other people? Well, actually, by praising other people, you kind of create this sort of sense that you respect and you value what they've done. And really, you want to do this with all sincerity, not just because many of us are really good at reading body language and telling when someone's just saying that to be nice, but be genuine. If you say, hey, that was really a nice presentation, that you did, or you know what, I heard from somebody else that you just got this award, fantastic for you. We think, oh, this is a minimal thing, but really, it kind of creates a nice ambiance where that person might say, hey, that's a really nice person who's acknowledging what I've accomplished, so I'm more likely to potentially collaborate with you or invite you to work with me. And the other one is to be visible. We sort of talked about this. I remember today, still back when I saw the junior faculty curriculum being put up by Lynn, I thought, wow, this is exciting. So I went to the first lecture last year and walked up to her and said, I really think this is a great series. I've been waiting for this to happen at UCLA because, there seem to be all these silos and nobody is helping the junior faculty and fellows to move up in the world. And she said to me, fantastic, John, I really appreciate your energy. So do you want to be on the committee? I said, oh, sure. The next thing you know, not only am I on the lecture series committee to design the lectures that we have, but here I am in front of you actually giving one of them. So just a little bit of volunteering really, or just talking to somebody, you never know when that opportunity is going to blossom to something else. Now mind you, like everything else in life, you'll have a few rejections, but in general, when you think about people in academia, we tend to be more inclusive than exclusive.
And actually, when we volunteer for this, said, oh, go give a lecture. Well, a lecture in radiology I can give it with my closed eyes, but a lecture networking? Oh, Friday I was, John, can we meet and see exactly how we're going to run this thing? So you have to really come out of your comfort zone. That's the bottom line in there. And get involved. People, once they recognize, they tend to think of people that they know. So they say, I need someone to participate in all this. Whoever gets asked to do this is going to go through the mental list of people they know, people that had a positive attitude. They're not going to call someone who has a cloud on top of their head to go work in a committee, say, oh, this is going to be trouble here. So this issue of being positive and having mentally prepared something about you or something that you can do really brings a benefit in the long run.
And part of it also is to keep your boss informed. It doesn't mean that you have to beat him or her over the head with everything you've done that day, but timely information is key. Let me give you an example. So one of my chief residents, I helped him apply for a major award with the Associate for Director of Psychiatry Residency Training. And this was a travel scholarship to go and kind of continue his educational career. So since I nominated him, wrote the letter of recommendation, I received an email from the organization saying, congratulations, your resident was selected. And so I immediately turned around and not only congratulated him, but made sure that the chair of the department, the vice chair, my division chief, and the medical director of the hospital, because he's head of the residency overview committee, to know that, hey, this is a wonderful achievement for our resident, but clearly implicit in that is, I helped him do this. So that way, it's not like you're banging them over the head, but you're sort of saying, oh, look, how wonderful it is that, so-and-so got this award, and by the way, good job, John, you helped them.
Last year I was nominated for an award by the Dean's Office to attend the leadership course on academic medicine. And it was a national selection process, and 50 women from around the country were selected to participate in that. And it was a year-long fellowship with classes and so forth. One of the first assignments that we had was prepare a short bio about yourself, include explaining what this fellowship you got is about, and send it to the media department of your hospital. And I was, really? Yes. So you really have to overcome this. And then the media department sends it to my neighborhood newspaper, to national societies and so forth, and the word spread around. So it was an honor for UCLA because not everybody that gets nominated gets accepted. It was great for me, and it was really coming out of that zone of comfort and going and making the information. Made everybody look good, and but requires you taking the initiative. And sometimes you feel, wow, I don't want to be self-promoting like this, but it's actually something that day in and day out gets done.
Okay. So planning ahead is a real key issue, which is that sometimes, I think you both plan ahead and be prepared for spontaneous interactions. So what I think about sometimes is if there's at a meeting, there's a person you want to meet, think about you have 60 seconds of their time. How do you talk about yourself quickly and talk about something you can offer that person or something you want from them? And think of how you're going to ask that. And sometimes I also say too, sometimes we're busy, we have to go run and see a patient, but I'll be a minute or two late if I see a colleague in the hallway and I'm talking about something and sort of chatting. You never know how much those brief interactions, we're all busy running around, can help you with something down the road. And it's really important, not just what can they do for you, but what can you do for them. And so, for example, I was at one of these meetings and one of my colleagues there said, oh, John, by the way, so-and-so would really love to have some help with their presentation because they're trying to embed some video. So I went ahead and volunteered to do that. And then I talked briefly about my interest in the organization getting more involved. And sort of that, he remembered that, and somehow that translated later on to a recognition for mentoring by that same organization. So you never know when that's going to be helpful.
Yeah, I just wanted to say from this is just my opinion, I think these are fantastic general tips that I think we all appreciate. But I think what would be really helpful is if, of course, everybody wants to be involved. That's why we're here. Everybody wants to, participate and all of that. But I think what would be really helpful for us is actual concrete ways of doing that. What is the website where the list of, for example, the committees that are available, how do you go to find that? What office do you go to find which, projects are available to be involved? Actual concrete ways of doing that, like the committees that we talked about. Of course, the general tips are fantastic, and I'm sure everyone appreciates that, but at the end of the day, for me, for example, it would be really helpful if, I had resources to go to specifically to say, okay, which committees are available, how do I get involved, who do I call, phone numbers, names, contact information. That's what
But that's so difficult for us to do because we have the entire School of Medicine here.
Right.
So for me to find out who in neurosurgery would be doing this would be very difficult. You have to be very proactive on this fashion as well. So there's your society has a website. The Academic Senate has a website. So it's looking for those opportunities. What would be very helpful here is us knowing the interest of each one as time goes by and we continue seeing each other. Here already we established a network that will allow us to, when something comes up, I said, I know there is someone that mentioned that they wanted to do that, and I have the notes and so far I can get back. But it's very difficult to tailor it on a more individual basis. We have to start by the general guidelines.
But I must say, one would hope that the university does a better job sort of supplying everyone with, for example, all the people who would want to be involved or volunteer their time, like they could go and list their names and number and contact number, as opposed to sort of casually.
Lynn Gordon is organizing a mentoring group exactly by recognizing this need within the medical school. So there is a change in this formal process of mentoring of the university because they recognize that that's not working so well.
So they want to be able to help you with these kind of needs.
Yeah,
I feel your frustration.
That's the key here. I mean,
Yeah.
everyone wants to be involved. Everyone, these tips are fantastic, but everyone's very conscious of them. You know, this is nothing new. You know, but I think what really helps is an actual. For example, you just gave us 2 names here that I noticed at least 5 people wrote down because we didn't know. You know, the chancellor's office, and that's the concrete information that would really be helpful.
Good.
Well, maybe we'll talk more offline afterwards about more specific things, but it really comes down to, I think, mentoring. You've got to find a mentor both here locally in your department as well as nationally in national organizations who can help you, because they can say, oh, by the way, I know so-and-so, and if you want to be more involved, let me introduce you to them. So mentoring is very key. You have to have both a local mentor and an outside of the university mentor. Could be somebody across town, or better yet, have it in different parts of the country. I cannot tell you how much it's been helpful to me personally that people that I've worked with in workshops or on committees at the national organizations, they would help me and say, to have the confidence to say, hey John, you know, at my university, you should be an associate professor already. What the hell is UCLA doing, you know, telling you you got to do another 4 years? So with those kind of things and that sort of networking, it's been helpful to kind of move ahead. So it's both be a mentor to somebody junior as well as find a mentor that's somebody senior, both in your department or outside of your department and sort of across the country even. Another thing we tend to do is we don't tend to accept accolades gracefully. It's always, oh, no, it was nothing, oh, it was no big deal. And you know what? That doesn't work in today's sort of fast-paced, you know, get-ahead mentality. You have to. My natural tendency is to say, oh, no, really nothing, or no, I don't, really anybody could do that. So I have to tell myself to stop and say, no, wait a minute. This is great. Thank you very much for that compliment. Really appreciate it. Otherwise, if you minimize your achievements, people think that really they are nothing, right? It's kind of basic. So getting back to this, it's a balance, right? You want to be assertive, but you don't want to be overly self-promoting. You don't want to be obnoxious at all. And so that's, you know, learn the culture of where you're at in terms of your department or the organization you're in. Who do you need to know? Sometimes it's not about necessarily meeting the president of the organization, but somebody who's perhaps not still senior, but not necessarily the leader. And over time, that'll expand your network to where you can actually get more involved in things.
I think one of the points also could be made is that there are people that think they have not accomplished enough to deserve something, while they actually have accumulated quite a bit of accomplishments. And one good way to get further reassurance, for example, is to apply for national courses like leadership courses. You were mentioning you wanted to get more into administrative positions and so forth. So the AAMC, American Association of Medical Colleges, has leadership courses both for junior faculty and for medium career faculty. So getting nominated to attend those leadership courses is a good way to get introduced into the line of that kind of activity.
And also, when you're talking to somebody, just like any good psychiatrist, you have to be an active listener. So don't, even though, yes, my paper just went off, I had to go look at it quickly, but get back to the discussion, make good eye contact, listen, ask open-ended questions, really feel engaged and connected to that person. Because if you're sort of dismissive, they're not going to come back to you later, or if you're not paying enough attention. So it's really important to ask open-ended questions, because you never know where they're going to lead. And they don't have to be necessarily, you know, work-related. It can be casual, like, hey, in your free time, what do you like to do? And then you never know what you'll find out that'd be kind of fun or interesting. I think one day I was actually on a bus at the American Psychiatric Association, sat next to a psychiatrist, saw that he was from Alaska, asked him about, you know, what he's doing in his free time. He says, oh, I go dog sledding. I said, really? That's cool. Oh, I've always wanted to do that. He said, you know what? Here's my card. Next time you're up in Nome, you go. So you never know, some opportunities as simple as that could actually lead to both something fun as well as perhaps professionally oriented.
And what it reminds me is the big cocktail setting when you're there with a glass of wine talking to people, and instead of looking at you and talking to you, they're scanning the room, seeing who's the next person I'm going to go talk to. And this makes me feel so uncomfortable. So what I had always had trouble with is how I end up that conversation that's leading to nowhere, and not to spend the whole night with that person who's boring me to death, and go do something else. So you have to devise some tricks that you can feel comfortable using. Like, oh, I see someone that I know and I need to talk to that person. Would you excuse me? It was very nice meeting you, and get up and go. Or I see someone in there that looks so lost. Let me go talk to that person for a little while. I'm sorry, and bye. So that you engage with several people during that cocktail hour without not paying attention to the ones that you were currently talking to, nor getting engaged on a totally useless conversation that's not interesting, obviously, neither you nor the person that is there. And many times you go in there and with an open mind, you say, well, here, my God, I'm in this meeting with thousands of people, I have nothing to do for dinner after this cocktail. I think I'm going to go back to my room and order my meal in the hotel room. Don't do that. Ask people, do you have any plans for dinner tonight? And so frequently, the other people said, no, I haven't thought about it either. Would you like to go and grab something to eat? There's a nice restaurant, this and that nearby. And then you end up forming a group of people that will go and have a nice time, rather than being in a hotel room, watching a movie, and what am I doing here? So use these opportunities of these network meetings or cocktails and so forth to make yourself more comfortable with the group that you're with. And then those are the connections that you make that will then lead to some more professional engagements and roles.
So not to be contrarian, but I think 90% of what you guys are saying I really find helpful. But I have 3 kids and I do research, and I'm constantly like juggling priorities. And when I go to professional meetings, I'm always thinking, well, should I go out with people tonight, or should I go to my hotel room and do 5 hours of work on the 3 papers that I really need to get out the door? I mean, I don't know how many people feel this way. Or, how many meetings should I go to, because every single one is like a trip away from my family. And, if I were to give advice to anybody, who's earlier on with kids, I would say, well, don't volunteer for extra stuff. Really focus on what's going to get you promoted and try to, stay focused. So where's the balance between those competing priorities?
That's a great point.
I have 3 kids, so I'm totally there with you. That's walking there. So it's very difficult. We mentioned before, and there's an article for tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, where did my day go? That is for the woman in medicine, which I found extremely helpful. But I had to learn to compartmentalize my life, because if I come to work and I'm worried about the 3 kids at home, I don't do anything well. So while I'm here, I'm focused on my work here, and I drive home and forget about the hospital. I don't even take anything to do at home. When you go to the meeting, you should probably divide up your time of attending some of the functions, and if you have the papers to work on and you can concentrate, work on them. But it will be a waste of an opportunity to be in a place where you can meet people that can help your career and not to participate in that. So I understand, I do a lot of the work on the plane, on the way in and on the way back, so that helps. But I don't spend all the time of the meeting working on the projects. And it's always that guilt trip that I'm leaving what a lousy mother I am, but actually the kids are very proud of the things you achieve. And it doesn't hurt them so much. And I have some articles that have come published saying professional mothers are so worried about how they're neglecting their kids and so forth, and as they grow up, what's going to happen to them. The results are really good. Few people resent the time we have not spent with them.
There's a quick question.
Yes.
Well, and that's such a question as a comment. So, Terry, I completely empathize. I would much rather kind of sit in my hotel room and get my work done, and rather than necessarily go out to dinner. And one of the things I found, because that's actually some time where you can get, where you're not worried about 8,000 other things at work or at home, is that I try and prioritize when I go to these conferences. If I know there are people that I need to meet to either discuss an upcoming project or somebody that I've been wanting to meet for a while because I know of their area of expertise, I go to their poster sessions and try to find times when I know I might be able to get 5 minutes of one-on-one time just to be able to introduce myself and say, I'm really interested in your work, would you mind sharing a little bit more with me? And I try and maximize that kind of along the...
So strategic networking as opposed to sort of buckshot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because when you're in meetings from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and you're on panels and you're trying to kind of process everything in the day, to be honest, what I would like to do is go out to dinner with my friends, whom I'm comfortable with, rather than necessarily try and join a larger group and kind of network. Obviously, when you are invited and you want to do that, and that also serves that networking purpose, that's good too. But if you have to prioritize, then strategic networking, exactly.
Right. Remember, the network doesn't have to be necessarily with that chair of that particular work group, or even just somebody else who's also connected to that. Well, and it takes time. Sometimes it's not the networking is going to necessarily produce fruit, if you will, in the first year. It may be 2 or 3 years down the road. So you always want to lay the groundwork. It's really important. It may not be this year that you're on that committee, but in a couple of years, you keep seeing that person, you shoot them an email or give them a call and say, hey, by the way, could you help me? Like I've actually said this, in the Training Directors Association, I would like to be on the steering committee. So I actually basically asked my friends, I said, hey, I know there's no openings now, but just to let you know, if you can help me, that'd be great. And sure enough, in a couple of years, I think I'll be on there. But don't give up on it is my point. Yes?
I wonder if you have any tips on sort of gracefully declining things. I once had someone tell me that the way he gained his success was to never say no to anything. And I think that I, with a toddler and a baby at home, cannot be sort of the proverbial yes man. But I don't want to, shoot myself in the foot, and I want to be able to choose things that are going to be advantageous for me to be involved in, but I don't want to seem like I'm not wanting to be involved by declining some things.
Well, I think it's a tough one, and I think what it is, it's about that, trying to find that medium, and I think it's always going to be a shifting line in the sand. Whereas, if you always say yes, people say, oh, then I can always say, get so-and-so to do something. If you say, oh, no all the time, they stop coming to you. So how do you find that right balance? And it's going to have to be, depending on realistically, whether you can, say, participate in that workshop committee, ask about the time commitment, ask them to be really honest and open about it, and then say, look, I'm really, really interested, I would love to, but I have this on my plate, and I don't want to do a bad job. That's what I say.
Right. Because otherwise you accept too many things and you end up suffering from trying to overextend yourself. And then you're not going to do a good job or neither one of these things you're committed to. It's just honesty saying that at this point I have so much on my plate, I can't accept a commitment this time. Maybe next year I can do this, or the next time that this comes up. But you really have to judge yourself how much you can balance the work and family life.
And then and so the last comment is, I found this to be helpful for me, may not be helpful for you, which is share your passions. And actually, for a while there, my wife doesn't drink wine, so I'm a bit of a wine collector, and I have this growing collection, and she's like, no more buying until you get rid of some of this stuff. And so I have a glass with every Friday night with my neighbor, but that's only one bottle a week, so I thought, gee, there's all these people at these meetings that I love to hang out with. We go to this restaurant, they charge like an arm and a leg, triple the value of the price of wine for that dinner we're having. It just dawned on me, why don't I bring wine to the meeting? And so I actually bought something called Bottle Wise. So you pack it secure in your suitcase. Now, unfortunately, you have to pay the fee and all that stuff. We can't do carry-ons. But I actually bring a couple bottle of wine to a couple of meetings I go to, meet some people that I know, my friends, and then we kind of hang out in somebody's hotel room or some place, have dinner, and bring a bottle and we talk about it. Although they might bring somebody else. Oh, John, is it okay if we invite so-and-so? They're a wine or budding wine connoisseur or something like that, and my network expands that way. So a little bit of generosity and sharing your passions can really go far. In fact, it's become a tradition now where I'll bring a couple bottles, someone else will bring a couple bottles, and we basically have a night out, a sort of a friend and also networking session. And again, it's not like necessarily, you just never know when you're going to meet some else who's going to be introduced to the group. And as long as you're sort of generative that way, for me, it's really worked out pretty well. Well, I know we're a little over time. It's already been 1 o'clock. I want to thank you for your participation. Hope you found some of these things helpful. And again, if you have any questions later, both Ines and I are welcome your calls or discussions.